Welcome everyone. Today we start our journey in biostatistics. Biostatistics is a core tool for public health and medicine, and it will help us turn data into meaningful conclusions that impact patients and populations. I know some of you might have heard statistics and felt a little intimidated, but our goal is to make this subject practical and approachable. Biostatistics is a field where we use statistical methods to solve real-world problems in medicine, public health, and biology. Our emphasis will be on applying these methods and correctly interpreting our findings, not on complex mathematical proofs. Biostatistics is the backbone of modern scientific research in health science. When a new drug is approved, it's because biostatisticians help analyze the data from clinical trials to prove its safety and effectiveness. When you hear about disease outbreaks, it's biostatisticians who are analyzing the data to understand how the disease is spreading and who is most at risk. This is a field that saves lives and improves health on a global scale. All biostatistical research follows a clear, logical framework. It's like building a house. You need a solid blueprint before you start. We always begin with a specific clinical question. For example, does regular exercise lower the risk of heart disease? Once we have our question, we design a study to answer it, collect the data, analyze it using the right tools, and then draw a conclusion. This systematic approach ensures our research is rigorous and our conclusions are valid. The clinical question is the starting point for everything. If your question is vague, your research will be too. A good question specifies the population, the intervention or exposure, and the outcome. The good question on the slide is a great example. It tells us exactly what we are studying: low-carb or low-fat diets in a specific population, adults, over a specific time frame, 3 months, and a clear outcome, weight loss. Once we have our question, we identify our variables. A variable is simply something that can vary or change. In our blood pressure example, the outcome we care about is the patient's blood pressure. We call this the outcome variable. Our goal is to see how this variable changes after we introduce the new drug. To analyze data correctly, we must first know what kind of variables you have. We can broadly classify variables into two main types: numerical and categorical. Numerical variables are measurements, while categorical variables are classifications. We will now look at each of these in more detail, along with their subtypes. Think of continuous variables as things you measure on a scale or with a ruler. The key characteristic is that you can always find the value between any two other values. For example, between 1.75 meters and 1.76 meters. There is 1.755 meters, and so on. These variables are measured, not counted. Discrete variables are different from continuous ones because they can only be whole numbers. You can count them. For example, you can have 5 patients in a room, but you can have 5.5 patients. Discrete variables often represent a count of an event or object. Let's quickly review the difference. If you can measure it with a tool or get a decimal, it's likely continuous. And if you can count it with your fingers and get a whole number, it's likely discrete. This distinction is important because different types of variables require different statistical methods. Now let's about categorical variables. The first type is nominal. These are just names or labels for different groups. There's no hierarchy or other. For example, blood type A is not better or worse than blood type B. They're simply different categories. We can count down how many people fall into each category, but we can't perform mathematical operations on the categories themselves. Unlike nominal variables, ordinal variables have an order. Severe pain is clearly worse than mild pain. While we know the order, we don't know the exact difference between categories. The difference between mild and moderate pain may not be the same as the difference between moderate and severe pain. The categories have a rank, but the intervals between them aren't necessarily equal. To quickly distinguish them, you can rank the categories from low to high, and it's ordinal. If the categories are just different labels, it's nominal. This distinction is crucial for choosing the right statistical methods. This slide provides a good overview of the variable types we've discussed. Having a clear understanding of these categories is the foundation for everything we will do in this course. It's the first step in deciding how to summarize and analyze your data. Collecting good data is just as important as the analyze. Poor data leads to poor results. This is where the study design comes in. We need to think carefully about how to ask questions and take measurements to ensure our data is accurate, complete, and reliable. We will cover this in more detail in later classes. Knowing the type of variables is the key to choosing the right statistical test. You can't calculate the average of a blood type or gender. Instead, you can count the number of people in each category and calculate a percentage. Similarly, you wouldn't use a count or percentages to analyze continuous blood pressure data. You use a mean or median. Biostatisticians are not just number crunchers. They are crucial partners in scientific research. We help design studies to ensure they are robust. We analyze the data using the right tools, and most importantly, we help researchers and the public understand what the number mean. Our job is to bridge the gap between complex data and meaningful conclusions. For next class, we will learn how to describe and visualize our variables. For numerical variables, how to use means, median, histograms, and box plots. And for categorical variables, how to use proportions, bar charts, and pie charts, etc. To recap the most important points from today, biostatistics is about using data to solve health problems. The first step is to ask a good question, which then leads us to identify our variables. Recognizing whether a variable is numerical or categorical and its subtype is the foundation of everything we do. This is a critical first step in your journey in becoming data literate. I'll see you next time.